I wasn't supposed to notice her like that. It was just another service call. A broken air conditioner in a quiet house that smelled faintly of lavender and old books. She opened the door wearing that kind of calm you can't fake. Mid-40s, maybe. Bare feet on cool tile. Hair tied loose, one strand stuck to her neck. I remember thinking she looked too composed for someone living in this kind of heat. "You're here for the AC?" she asked, voice soft but steady. "Yeah," I said, trying not to look like I was melting. "You said it keeps shutting off?" She nodded, leading me inside. The hallway light was dim, like it had agreed to stay low out of respect for her. The unit was in the corner of her living room, humming faintly like it couldn't decide whether to keep trying. I crouched down, tools out, and she stood nearby, arms crossed. Not out of impatience, more like protection. "You live alone?" I asked before I could stop myself. "Mostly." A pause. "My daughter visits when she remembers." Something about the way she said it made me look up. Our eyes met, longer than polite. Then she smiled, a small, tired one that didn't quite reach her eyes. I focused on the vent again, though I could feel her behind me. The faint sound of her sipping water. Bare feet shifting on tile. The air around us thick with the kind of silence that hums louder than noise. After a few minutes, I found the problem a faulty relay. Simple fix. I stood, wiping my hands on my shirt. "Should be working now," I said. She walked closer, testing the air from the vent. She said. "Still feels warm." I checked the thermostat. It read 23 degrees. "It'll cool down in a minute." She stepped closer. Close enough that her perfume, something faintly citrus, brushed the air between us. "Maybe I just like the warmth," she said, voice almost a whisper. I turned, half smiling before I realized I shouldn't. "Guess I can't fix that." Her laugh came quick, light, almost too easy. But her eyes lingered. The silence after was strange. Not uncomfortable, just heavy. Like we both knew it should end, but neither of us wanted to break it. I glanced at my clipboard. "I'll write this up and—" "You want some water?" she interrupted. "Sure." In the kitchen, she handed me a glass. Our fingers brushed. Not enough to call it anything, but enough that I forgot what I was about to say. "Hot day," I muttered. "MMH." She leaned against the counter. "Feels hotter inside, though." She didn't move, and I didn't either. Her gaze stayed on mine. Steady, unguarded, almost curious. I noticed the faint tan line on her ring finger, the way her thumb traced the edge of the counter absent-mindedly. The air conditioner kicked in again, soft whoosh breaking the silence. Cool air filled the room, but neither of us stepped away. "You sure it's fixed?" she asked, tone teasing, but something beneath it, hesitation, maybe. "Yeah, you can test it all you want, though." That made her smile. A real one this time. She looked toward the hallway, then back at me. "Maybe I will." Something in her voice made me forget every reasonable thing I knew. The glass in my hand felt too cold, my pulse too loud. And then a sound. A knock at the door. Sharp, sudden. Her expression shifted. Gone was the ease, replaced by something unreadable. She set her glass down. "Stay here," she said quietly, already walking away. The air conditioner hummed, perfectly cool now. But the room still felt like fire. She didn't come back right away. I heard low voices at the door, then the sound of it closing. When she finally returned, she looked different, more careful somehow. "Neighbor," she said, forcing a smile that didn't fit. "He worries too much." I nodded, pretending to believe her. I should have left then. My job was done. But my pen wouldn't find the right line on the form, and she didn't seem to want me gone either. "Can I get you something else?" she asked, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "Coffee? Or you've probably had enough of that kind of small talk." "Huh. It's fine," I said. "Coffee sounds good." The kettle took its time heating up. We stood there, the silence dragging between us like an invisible rope neither of us wanted to cut. She spoke first. "You look too young to be fixing air conditioners." I started early. "Smart." Her voice softened. I used to admire people who knew what they wanted that soon. The kettle whined. She poured water, her hand trembling just a little. I noticed the faint scar near her wrist, small, white, old. Used to? I asked quietly. She smiled, not looking up. People change. It wasn't what she said, but how she said it, like a person who'd lived through something and didn't want to explain. I tried to look away, but she leaned over to hand me the cup. Her fingers grazed mine again, slower this time, like she noticed too. I felt my throat tighten. Thanks. MMH. She sipped hers, watching me over the rim. How old are you, anyway? 26. She nodded, no surprise, just thought. My daughter's 23. That landed between us, heavy, undeniable. She didn't move, and neither did I. That's close, I said, half smiling, trying to ease the edge off. Too close? She asked. She wasn't teasing this time. Maybe, I said, and immediately wished I hadn't. Something flickered in her eyes. Hurt? Amusement? Passed too fast to know. She set her cup down. I don't do this, she said. Whatever this is. I didn't think you did. That made her laugh again, low and uncertain. You think too much for someone your age. Maybe that's why I'm still single. She looked at me then, really looked. The kind of look that asks a question without saying it. And maybe she saw the answer in my face, because her expression softened, almost pitying, almost something else. You should go, she said finally, stepping back, though her voice didn't sound like it wanted that. I didn't move. Yeah, I said, setting my cup down next to hers. Our hands brushed again, her fingers cold, mine too warm. She looked down at the touch, then up at me. Neither of us spoke. The air conditioner kicked in again, a low hum filling the silence like a reminder that time was still moving. She didn't step away this time, just stood there, close enough for me to feel her breath near my neck, the faint tremor when she exhaled. And for a second, neither of us remembered what was supposed to be right. The next time I saw her, it wasn't planned. She called about a weird sound from the AC, but when I got there, the house was perfectly quiet. Guess it stopped, she said, standing in the doorway, hair damp from a shower, wearing an oversized shirt that looked borrowed from someone else's life. I knew she was lying, or maybe lying to herself, but I stepped inside anyway. Still want me to check it? Please. The air smelled like rain outside and soap on her skin. I crouched by the vent again, pretending to focus. She hovered nearby, closer than before. I could feel her presence, a small electric weight at my shoulder. How've you been? She asked, her voice softer now, less guarded. Fine. Busy. She smiled faintly. You don't sound fine. I didn't answer. Instead, I turned a dial that didn't need turning. The hum of the AC filled the silence between us. She crouched next to me, too close. Her hand steadied herself on the floor, brushing mine. For a second, neither of us breathed. You're shaking, she said quietly. I'm not elite. She looked at me then, eyes searching, as if she could see the pulse jumping in my throat. Before either of us could speak, a phone buzzed, hers on the table. She flinched. Is that your daughter? I asked. She hesitated. No, it's... She didn't finish. The phone kept vibrating. Finally, she silenced it, leaving the name glowing on the screen too long for it to be casual. Someone named Mark. I looked away. She did too. The quiet between us turned heavier. I should go, I said. You always say that, she whispered. Something in her tone stopped me. I turned and she was standing close again, too close. You keep calling, I said. And you keep coming. There it was, the thing we hadn't said out loud. Her hand lifted, hesitated halfway, then found my arm. Light touch, barely there, but enough. You shouldn't, I said, voice lower than I meant. I know. She didn't move her hand. The silence burned through the space between us. Then the sound of a car pulling into the driveway. Tires crunching gravel. Her eyes widened. You need to go, she whispered sharply, stepping back. I froze. Who? My sister, she said quickly, glancing toward the window. Go out the side door. But I didn't move right away. I watched her instead. The way her chest rose, how her hands shook just enough to betray her calm. Go, she repeated, barely above a breath. I stepped past her. Close enough to feel the heat off her skin, close enough to smell her shampoo, something clean and floral. She turned her face slightly, and for a split second, our lips were a breath apart. Not touching, just hovering in the same fragile space where everything could change. Then she moved, just an inch, enough to make it clear that we couldn't. The door clicked behind me, but even outside, under the heavy gray sky, I could still feel the warmth of where she'd almost been. 3 days passed before I saw her again. Long enough to think it had burned out. Long enough to realize it hadn't. She texted late. The AC's acting up again. No greeting, no emoji. Just that. When I arrived, it was already dark. The house glowed with soft amber light from a single lamp in the living room. She stood by the window, arms folded, wearing that same quiet composure, except tonight it looked thinner, like something held together by will. I checked the unit, I said. It's fine. I know. She turned toward me slowly. I just didn't like the silence. There was no pretending after that. I stepped closer. You could have called someone else. She half smiled. Could I? The air between us was thick, uncooled despite the steady hum of the vent. I could smell the faint salt on her skin, the warmth of her perfume, something almost like rain. You shouldn't keep doing this, I said. I'm not the only one, she murmured. That hit harder than I expected. You think I don't try to stop? I think you like pretending you're in control. She was right. I didn't answer. She stepped closer again. Slow, deliberate. Her hand brushed the edge of my sleeve. You're shaking again, she said, barely above a whisper. I laughed under my breath. So are you. She didn't deny it. Instead, she reached up, fingertips grazing my jaw, just enough to leave heat behind. My pulse kicked hard. She saw it. Tell me to stop, she whispered. I didn't. Her hand moved, slow, up the side of my neck, her thumb resting just beneath my chin. My breath caught. I should have stepped back, but the thought didn't even cross my mind. This is wrong, I said finally, voice unsteady. She nodded once. Then why does it feel like relief? That was the breaking point. Not a kiss, not yet, but the truth landing between us like a confession neither of us could take back. Because everything else feels like pretending, I said. She inhaled, sharp and shaky. Her forehead almost touched mine. I could feel her breath, warm, quick, trembling. My hand moved before I could stop it, brushing a loose strand of hair from her face. She didn't move away. Then came the sound, faint, electronic, cruel. Her phone again. She closed her eyes, whispering something that sounded like a curse. The name lit up the screen again. Mark. She looked at me, eyes wide, torn between panic and something like sorrow. He thinks we're trying again, she said softly. But I don't even know who I am with him anymore. Her voice cracked on him. I stepped closer, close enough that my chest brushed hers, close enough to feel the heat through the small space that shouldn't have existed. You know who you are right now, I said. She exhaled, shaky, desperate. Her lips parted just enough for a breath to catch between us. Then show me, she whispered, and then a sharp knock on the window. Her eyes widened. Mine did too. The room froze, cool air, warm skin, everything hanging by a thread that was about to snap. The knock at the window wasn't a stranger. It was him, Mark. He didn't come inside, just motioned for her to step out. His expression unreadable, his stance too familiar to be anything but history. She froze, every trace of warmth draining from her face. Stay here, she whispered again, the same words as before. But this time her voice broke on them. I didn't argue. I watched her walk out the back door, watched the curtain shift behind her. Their voices carried, muffled, sharp, rising, then falling. Words like you promised and not again tangled in the air. I shouldn't have stayed, but I did. Minutes passed before she came back in. Her eyes were glassy, her breathing uneven. She didn't look at me right away. "He knows," she said finally. My chest tightened. "About, not everything, just enough." I swallowed. "You told him?" Her jaw clenched.
No.
"He heard me talking about you last night." That hit harder than it should have. Talking how? She met my eyes then, full of something between anger and shame, like someone who forgot what she was supposed to protect. I didn't know what to say. Every word that came to mind felt too small for what hung between us. She brushed past me, pacing toward the counter, gripping its edge like she needed it to stay upright. "You have no idea how complicated this is," she said quietly. "Then tell me," I said, stepping closer. "Tell me instead of pretending it doesn't matter." She turned suddenly, her face inches from mine. "It does matter. He's not just my ex. He's the reason I built this life alone. He ruined me once and I can't." She stopped, breath catching mid-sentence. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was full of everything she couldn't finish saying, and everything I'd started to feel before I was supposed to. "I don't want to ruin anything," I said softly. Her eyes softened, wet but steady. "You already have." That should have hurt more than it did. But somehow it sounded like permission. She took a step closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "You shouldn't be here." "I know." "Then why are you?" I didn't answer, just lifted a hand, slowly, and touched the side of her arm. She didn't flinch. Her breathing hitched, and her eyes closed like she couldn't bear to look at me. "You don't understand what this will cost." "I don't care," I said, and I meant it, even as fear crawled up my spine. When she opened her eyes again, they weren't guarded anymore, just raw. For a moment, she leaned in, forehead against my chin, breath trembling against my neck. My hands hovered near her waist, not touching, just feeling the heat between us, the ache of restraint. Then she pulled back, trembling. "You need to decide," she said, voice barely there. "Before I can't anymore." And before I could ask what she meant, she turned off the light, leaving the room dim, quiet, and full of choices that couldn't be undone. The house was dark except for the glow of the thermostat, 20 degrees steady. The AC purred, calm and constant, like nothing in the room was wrong, but everything was. She stood by the window again, her back to me, barefoot, wrapped in silence. I could see the faint reflection of her face in the glass, calm, but her hand kept flexing, restless. I didn't know if she'd called me, or if I'd just shown up. Maybe both. Maybe neither. It didn't matter anymore. "You shouldn't be here," she said without turning around. "I know. You never listen." "I do," I said quietly. "Just not when it comes to you." That made her turn. Her eyes were tired, red around the edges, but when they met mine, something inside both of us stilled. "This doesn't end well," she whispered. "I know." "Then why?" "Because I can't stop." The words came out rougher than I meant. She blinked, like she'd been waiting to hear them and dreading it at the same time. I took a step forward. She didn't move. Another step. Now the space between us was the size of a breath. "Don't," she said, but her voice didn't sound like a warning. It sounded like surrender. I reached up, brushing a strand of hair from her face. My hand lingered too long. Her eyes fluttered shut, like she didn't trust herself to keep them open. "I shouldn't want this," she said. "Then tell me to leave." She didn't. The silence stretched until it was unbearable, the kind that makes your heart beat louder just to fill it. When she opened her eyes again, they were wet, steady, fierce. "You think this is about want?" she said. "You think I haven't wanted before? This is about forgetting what comes after." Her hand rose, not to push me away, but to rest against my chest. Her fingers pressed lightly against my shirt, feeling the pulse beneath it. "Tell me it's not real," I said. She didn't speak. Her hand trembled just once. The air felt too thick to breathe. I leaned in, not enough to close the distance, but enough to feel the warmth radiating between us. Her lips parted, My hand slid to her wrist, gently, as if holding something fragile. Then she said it, the truth she'd been holding back since the beginning. "You remind me what it's like to be seen," she whispered. Everything stopped. For a second, it felt like the air itself shifted. The cold air turning warm, the steady hum of the AC fading into silence. Her forehead pressed against mine. Neither of us moved. The line between us, age, fear, guilt, blurred into something painfully human. Finally, she stepped back, just enough to break the spell but not enough to take it back. "We can't," she said softly. "I know." Her eyes lingered, a final confession in silence. "But now you know why I called." She turned away before I could speak, walking down the hall, leaving the air behind her heavy and still. Like something sacred had been broken open and left humming between us. Morning light crept through the blinds, thin and gold. The hum of the AC was steady again, the only sound in the house. I didn't think I'd see her again after that night. I told myself it was better that way, that I'd leave her the quiet she wanted, the control she fought so hard to keep. But the silence didn't feel right anymore. It wasn't peace, it was distance pretending to be safety. So when I found myself parked outside her house again, engine off, sun barely up, I didn't have a reason, just a feeling. She opened the door before I could knock. No surprise on her face, no words, just that faint, tired smile that had undone me from the start. "I thought you wouldn't come back," she said. "I thought the same." She stepped aside. "Then why are you here?" I exhaled. "Because walking away didn't work." That made her laugh, quiet and real. The kind of laugh that shakes the last of the fear loose. The house felt different, softer somehow. Curtains open, a hint of coffee in the air. She'd let the sunlight in this time. I followed her to the kitchen, same counter, same space where everything had started to unravel. But now, the air between us wasn't sharp, just warm. "I keep telling myself it's wrong," she said, leaning against the counter. "That people would stare, talk, judge." "They will," I said. "They always do." Her gaze lifted to mine. "And you? I'll still be here." She looked at me for a long moment, eyes steady, unguarded. Then she walked over, slow, deliberate, and stopped just close enough for her hand to find mine. Her fingers were cold at first. Then they tightened, soft but certain. "Do you ever wonder what this looks like?" she asked. "All the time. And I don't care how it looks, only how it feels." She smiled small, almost shy. "And how does it feel?" "Like something that's been waiting too long." That broke her stillness. She stepped closer, her forehead resting against my chest, the faint scent of coffee and her shampoo threading between us. My hand moved to her back, tracing slow circles, the kind you don't rush. We stood like that for a while, not hiding, not pretending, just breathing in sync. When she looked up again, her eyes were soft and sure. "I don't know where this goes," she said. "Then let's find out." She nodded, leaning in, no hesitation this time. Just a quiet meeting halfway, a kiss that felt like a question finally answered. The air conditioner kicked on again, cool air circling us, and for once, neither of us reached to turn it down. Outside, the morning stretched open. Inside, everything finally settled. Not perfect, not certain, just real. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?